Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Man,
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask Our Vet, show 33. Amazing. Last show of 2020. It seems it's really amazing. These 8 months have gone by so quickly, but thank you for joining us. I'm really, really excited about our show today. Super excited because 3 of my favorite people on the planet are with us. So I think we're gonna have a great show. We're gonna take some questions, just kind of talk topics. First and foremost, I should introduce who's on the show. So we have 3 other veterinarians, all graduated from Ross University. Between the 4 of us, I was thinking about this today. Between the 4 of us, we have over 100 years of veterinary experience. This point in our careers, which seems like we were in school yesterday, right? So let me introduce everybody. So in the first person, Dr. Stephanie Ulrich, practices small animal medicine surgery at Jericho Animal Hospital in New York. She is a 1995 graduate of Ross University with me, right?
Yep.
Scott, 95?
No, I think you were 96.
I was, yeah. I have a hard time remembering these days. Anyway, specializes in a lot of internal medicine, dermatology, oncology, you name it. An absolute wonderful veterinarian and a better person. So Stephanie, welcome to the Ask Our Vet. Dr. Scott Leffler, again, another graduate of Ross University. He's small animal medicine and surgery. And he opened his own practice. How many years ago now, Scott?
20
years, same as me, right? You and I got our practice at the same time. So he's been practicing for 25 years and 20 years of his own practice. Animal Medical Center, Streetsboro, Ohio, and just has received numerous awards in that area. Best veterinarian in the area. A good deal, many years running. So another person that is a very compassionate and a very skilled veterinarian. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Marcus Sminkey. Sminks, what year did you graduate from Ross? Were you a year or 2 ahead of us?
It was the mid 1800s.
Yes.
Hold on. Sorry.
Were you 93 or 94?
94.
Yeah, 94. I thought so. A year ahead of us. Dr. Sminkey owned his own practice in Connecticut. For how many years did you have your own practice in Connecticut, Sminks?
About 11 years.
11 years. Sold that. Now you have your roving vet house call practice in northern New Hampshire in the White Mountains, north of the Notch, which we see the north of the Notch there, right? Dr. Sminkey has done some work at my clinic as well, and it's always good when I can get him down and have him practice with me. We have a ball, and just another excellent source of knowledge, an excellent veterinarian, and an all-around wonderful guy for sure. So guys, thank you very much for joining me for this happy hour and my last show. This is our Christmas show, right? We started with a little Dean Martin, and I appreciate you guys being on. Of all the shows I've done, I'm most excited about this one. So thanks. And it's great that we can catch up because, normally we see each other at reunions and we see each other at continuing education seminars. And obviously this year has prevented us from doing that. So this is our own little reunion as well. So thank you all for being here. Thanks. Since it's our happy hour show, I was just wondering if we go around the room, I was wondering what you guys are, what your drink of choice is for the evening's festivities. What do you have, Steph? All right.
Whispering Angel.
There you go. Little wine. Dr. Sminkey, what are you having tonight?
I have a little bit of some sort of a white. It comes from a box, not sure what.
But it sounds delicious. And Scott, please tell us what you're having for the
The
festivities.
Bouquet.
What is a Bouquet?
A Bouquet is it's a New Orleans drink from way back when. It's
All right.
Rye whiskey, cognac, sweet vermouth, Benedictine, and just a little bit of bitters, and top it off with the cherry.
Beautiful.
Nice.
It's delicious.
Sounds delicious.
It's kind of a
Wonderful.
play on an old fashioned.
Very, very nice. Well, cheers,
Cheers.
everybody, and cheers to everybody at home.
Dr. Chris,
Thanks
you
for
have a
everyone
red-
joining us. I hope you have your drink in hand for the happy hour. You
Cheers.
know, we're
Cheers.
just a couple days away
Right.
from the holidays, so please, everyone, you know, sit back, think of some questions to ask. We're gonna talk about a few topics, and we'll lead into some questions. I'm just gonna see who's checking in. Nora Jones is checking. Hey, Nora, how are you? Nora says, "Merry Christmas to all the great vets, and thank you for sharing your time."
Thank you, Nora.
Thanks,
You're
Nora.
welcome.
Thanks, Nora.
Pat Gerassi's in. Hey, Pat. Nicole is checking in. That's great. Great. So a couple things I want to start with. You know, one of the things that I've been doing, this show was born out of COVID, and just a way to connect with a lot of the people, you know, the whole Earth animal family, right? And so what I've been doing every week is, you know, I get into a COVID update, which I don't think we really need to do this week. I think what I wanted to do was talk about kind of the various things that we're doing. You know, we're all in different regions, which is it's kind of unique for all of us to come here and talk about it, and just the different ways that the veterinary hospitals in the regions are dealing with COVID. And, you know, it varies. I think all four of our experience right now are different. So, you know, personally, I'll go first. You know, we're still doing curbside. You know, we're out there in the elements. We're still going outside, the doctors and the technicians getting the animals, bringing them in, doing what needs to be done, and then going back outside. So certainly there are challenges ahead with that as the weather starts to get a little more dicey. We had a big snow event, one of the biggest we've had in years, actually, last Thursday, and we had to close, as did the vast majority of businesses in the area, because we got about a foot of snow, and it snowed all the way until it snowed through the night Wednesday and all through the day Thursday. We got about a foot of snow. So really wasn't a time we could even practice. And, you know, we've had, you know, this Thursday, we're supposed to get some rain. So we've been out there in, you know, hail and rain, and certainly not ideal, but it's something that, you know, the Connecticut Veterinary Medical Association feels strongly about. And so we're just continuing to practice like that. Scott, what are you guys doing out in Ohio?
So, you know, I have a pretty big area to work with. So my staff's on one side of the reception area, and the clients are on the other side of the area. And honestly, my 3 exam rooms are well spaced as well. So as soon as I get someone in, they're in an exam room. So I can utilize all 3 of them if needed. I try and space out the appointments, you know, as best I can to eliminate any milling around in the reception area.
Right.
Everyone has masks on, of course, has
Right.
to.
And you're finding that people are being, you know, they're following the rules, and they're open to, you know, all the
Yes.
rules and everything you're doing.
Yeah, everyone understands the nature of the beast. I do have some neighbor veterinarians that are still doing curbside and have always done curbside since the opening.
Great.
Fortunately, I haven't run into any problems with this.
Yeah.
You know, I really have a great way to space everyone out and do the social distance, and you know, it's just worked out well so far. Hopefully,
Well, again, and you do have a big space there, and that's the key, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that is the key. You know, it gets our waiting room. Once you get into our exam rooms, are really too tight to do that right now for us.
Right.
And like I said, and I tell everybody, would I rather be doing this all inside rather than being outside and getting pelted with rain? Sure, but it's what we have to do now to stay safe. And you're able to social distance within your practice,
Yeah.
so people stay safe that way.
I can
you're
have
lucky
people
that
go
that's
in the
right.
one exam door and out the other, and go out the other door. So it's great flow, and it
Yeah.
was developed before all this. So thank God.
Good. Yeah, right. Steph, how about you? Dr. Stephanie, what are you guys
We're
doing in your
doing-
practice out in Long
We're
Island?
doing half and half. We were completely curbside. Then we started to allow one client or 2 clients in, then they have to sit on, you know, on separate areas, on spots. But now we're trying to take histories over the phone, bring in the animal, and then if the people really want to come in at the end so that we can follow up and go over everything that we find and everything that we've done, they can come in. But I find that, you know, it's a very big mixture. Some people really, really want to come in, and some people don't want to come in, but nobody in the exam rooms because we can't social distance.
And for the most part, you find people
I find that it's, across the board, for the most part, most people are accepting of it. But yeah, there are people that just don't understand. They want to be there with their animals. They feel that their animals are afraid and that they need them in the room, and they don't quite understand that, this is just for the safety of my staff and safety of
and them as well. Right. And I think, that's part of, we have the same thing. I think there's people but for the overwhelming, for the most part, people have been really amenable to this and just know it's the situation we're in, and it's for everyone's safety. And I just keep reminding, like I said before, it's not ideal for anybody. None of this is. None of this whole, everything that's going on is not ideal for anybody. But, as long as we can be hyper vigilant about what we're doing, the faster we can do this, the faster we can get through this. We get some vaccinations, and, hopefully middle of next year to the end of next year, we're turning the page on this terrible thing. So, but we all have to work together. And it's important that our clients understand that we're doing it in their best interest and our best interest, because you know what? Bottom line is, we get someone in the hospital that gets sick, God forbid, we're shut down for 2 weeks, and then we can't serve anybody, right? Dr. Sminks, what are you doing for the house call thing and that sort of thing?
House calls are challenging, not so much on my end, but on client ends about coming into the household, which I fully understand. Some of the relief places I work, I work over in Maine as well. And when you get into the more rural areas, things seem a little bit more relaxed. The more population it is, the more it's more curbside, very little contact between people. And then, of course, you always have that difficult situation with euthanasias and how you can handle euthanasias best for people to allow them to be close to the pet during that last time. So it is a challenge, practice safe distancing, wear the mask, wash your hands. All the same things are what we're hearing everywhere. I'm sure we'll get through it, and we'll be on the other side of it. And we'll be back to our same old selves doing what we used to do before, hopefully.
And maybe we'll be back at Ross University in a year from now, and
for continuing education. For
continuing education, of course. If you have to do it, doing it in the islands is not the worst thing, right? So
I did the one this year for the vet show in New York City that was free. They offered it free to veterinarians, which was
that's great.
Did that, yeah.
That's great. That's
virtual
great.
3 days, 10-hour days, a lot of good subjects. And they didn't charge for the event, which helped a lot. It was nice.
Well, we're all getting more and more used to the virtual, doing things virtually, and everything almost virtually, right? So it's something that I'm going to be glad to put aside at some point, and when because certainly part of the thing that I love about practicing, and I know you guys are all the same way, is I love the human interaction. You love that these clients that you've seen for years, that you've seen their kids grow up, and the kids, come in and they're 6 years old. Next thing you know, you blink, you turn around, and they're 6'2", and they're going to Columbia, right? It's like, it's just, so to me, that's something that we're missing out on. Certainly we're still talking. I go out and talk to every client outside. I talk to everyone, no matter what's, no matter what the weather is, no matter what's going on. But when it's raining on you, the conversations tend to be a little shorter than, how's the family? So we're just checking in, making sure everyone's healthy, and, how's everybody doing? But I do really miss that human interaction where we can be in the room, and just year to year, you hear about their families. And not only do your patient know their animals, but you get to know their families. And I think for us, and again, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I've known you guys for a long time. That's something that I'm really missing out on in this.
It's true. And I think too, part of the thing is that you miss sometimes when you have this curbside thing and you're not face to face with people, the ability to ask them certain questions to get an answer that they may not give to you because they don't know what they're not interacting face to face with you. And it's like, hey doc, it's actually over on this side, or this is going on. So it's a little challenging, I think, sometimes.
Histories too, histories are hard sometimes, right? They're one of the most challenging things in for us, because when I'm telling someone history on even one of my kids at the doctor or something, you forget things, right? And and we get the people that come in and say, okay, they're limping on their right leg, but they're looking at them and it's really their left leg, right? Because they call, so you look at both legs, and then, but if they're in the room, they're like, no, the other one, right? So stuff like that is, you can't replace that. You can't replace that human interaction. So that I find has been definitely a challenge. I think that's
and euthanasia is like when you're with these clients and you've watched their animals grow up and just they want to hug you at the end, and that's just heartbreaking to me. That's just something that I'm having, and people want to hug you so bad, and it's like, and I want to hug them back, and it's very frustrating.
We're all, and I'm not, you almost find yourself, you're kind of, you have to go against your,
I've had someone just grab me before I could say no, and I was already into it. That was a while ago.
You're wrapped up. What are you going to do at that point? And I get it. I mean, it's literally, you're having to do all these things that is so against your grain,
Right.
so against your grain as who you are as a person and who you are as a veterinarian, that, you get these, just consoling people and touching them on the arm or just talking to them, you have, it's not ideal at all. But that is, speaking of, you're talking about euthanasia, that is the only time that we are allowing people in the clinic now.
Yes,
because again, that's not something that, we're doing as much social distancing as we can. Everyone's masked up, and obviously we're taking all the precautions, but it's unfathomable to me that they could not be with their, with their loved one at the time, and with their family member at that time. I could never take that away from anybody, nor would I want to.
It's interesting that some of the emergency clinics have set up like these huge tents with couches and like floors and stuff like that, and pillows, and they have lighting and candles, and they try to make it so that it's as nice as it could be for a horrible thing.
And on a tough time. Are they doing that outside, like setting those things up outside?
At one of the ERs on the island, they have a whole tent just set up just for that. With like literally, it has couches and it has like carpeted floors and pillows and stuff like that, and they have like candles in the room, and everybody that wants to be there for the euthanasia, be present, can be in the tent outside. I mean, we let people in and just try our best to distance, but it's difficult, and then people are crying and pulling their mask down, and it's not the most ideal thing. It's just, and it's hard.
It's as bad a situation as it gets.
Look the other way and just
right.
You get it.
So let's look. We have a few people chiming in here, so let me check in. Mona and Basil are watching down in South Carolina. Hi, Mona and Basil. Hi, Pat and Angelo, New Jersey. Thank you for watching. So Susan has a question. Stephanie, you may know Susan. Let's see. Hi, Kris and Stephanie in parentheses. Delilah had her monthly glucose test today, and her numbers were above 100 for the first time since you regulated her in July. So this is down. She's down in South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
Stephanie?
She just moved.
So they were at 307 on her. Susan, just weigh in when that was during the day. Was it at how long after her insulin injection was that? I'd like to know. She is scheduled for spay and ear growth removal at the beginning of January. How will this affect her diabetes and her numbers? Any suggestions? I'll go first, and I'll let you guys weigh in on it. So just for a little history, Susan is a friend and client of Dr. Stephanie, who moved out to Connecticut and then now subsequently has moved down to South Carolina. She has a diabetic dog who had become diabetic after a litter of puppies, right, Stephanie? Do I remember that right?
Yeah. Right after.
And so they were having a real hard time out at another veterinarian in Connecticut regulating her, and we had Stephanie and I kind of got together and worked on it together. We switched her insulin, and since she's been really well regulated, I think this
very
entire
well,
time,
very well
right?
regulated.
She's done well. So I guess that the question has a few layers in it, and I'd like you guys to weigh in too. One is, it does depend on midday, 12 o'clock shots. Okay, so this is 6.5 hours post, which is supposed to be your low point, right? When you're giving insulin twice a day, just for everyone out there on these guys. And, a lot does affect a single glucose, right? There's a ton that goes into it. What they ate in the morning, right? Certainly stress can do that as well. Stress can falsely elevate it. So I wouldn't put, and again, I'm going to ask you guys, I wouldn't put a lot of stock certainly in an isolated sugar, but there's a couple other options. One is obviously repeating a midday sugar, but they can also do a fructosamine to see what her overall, which is about a 3-week average of her sugar. So that's something maybe they would think about before they do surgery. Dr. Stephanie, you have anything else?
Yeah, I think the question is so they found when she had an ear infection, and they actually noticed a growth in one of her ears, and the vet really wants to get a handle on it and take it out and have it biopsied because he's concerned about it. And he said he would do it at the same time that he spaced her, and she's just now getting a little nervous about, putting her on, because she's older, and stopping that, we have to give half the amount of insulin for the day. And she's concerned, how am I going to re-regulate my dog? And, what do you think about, the pros and cons of actually spaying her and doing the growth removal and then having to, get her back on track. I think she's very concerned about, she's doing very well. She's happy. Her weight is good. She's not drinking excessively or urinating excessively. And she's just, I think the anesthesia part is weighing on her. And she's like, should I just not do it and just let it go? And I don't think so. I feel that she should address that growth in the ear. We need to find out what that is, and she should get spayed.
Dr. Scott, what do you think about the fructosamine thing?
I would definitely think about that. Definitely do that, because I think a spot BG is not 100%.
I mean, that's obviously important, but I'm a little concerned about what the sugar is going to do after spaying, getting rid of the hormones. Does she know about that potentially changing things, or is she worried about that?
Yeah, I mean that's a concern, and like Dr. Sminkey, when you think about this, it's not only a concern about the hormones, because obviously that affects every, when you're talking about an endocrine system, right? It's all connected, right? So, but also obviously stress of surgery, recovery, the stress of that. So that's what I always tell people is when you go into these, you want to be as hyper vigilant about everything as you can, especially, a diabetic that's going to undergo procedures and things like this. So you want them to be at their best when they go in. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the 307 today might be a red flag. I think doing a fructosamine and maybe doing another midday glucose at some point, just seeing if this is an outlier. But I do think, and Sminks, you can probably talk about this as well. I think having this dog as regulated as possible and at her best when you go in is key for this.
Exactly. And I don't know dietary wise what the diet is, but of course, you're going to go under anesthesia. That's going to change things. You're going to come out of that, and there's going to be fluctuations, momentary fluctuations in the blood glucose until things stabilize a bit. So, you got to remember too, the animal's been diabetic for a while. They're coming out, and then we're trying to immediately regulate it. It might take a little time to get things back to where you want to get,
Right. I mean, the good thing is when we switched her insulin, she responded very quickly, and very well.
What is she on now?
Initially. So she's on Vetselin, and she did respond, quickly and well. And really, she was having a hard time. I mean, she was not feeling well. Her sugars were all over the map. And once she, really from the switch, within a few days, she started to pick up. I mean, she did. So I do have faith that if they have to do these things, And it sounds like if they're worried about the ear growth, it's probably indicated. But I do, again, a couple weeks here doesn't necessarily make a big difference. I think making sure, Susan, that she's at her best going in is going to be the recipe for the greatest success. I think you guys all agree.
True, and you're going in fasted too. So you're not giving a full dose. Typically, I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't do a full dose on surgery day.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
we usually do half, depending. We usually do half. I do, depending on, again, it depends. One of the things we always talk about is how individual every animal is, right? There is no recipe. You have these broad strokes and, what the rules are, but you guys know better than anybody that every single animal, no two golden retrievers are the same. No two Labradors, no two 6-year-old, 7-year-old Labradors are the same. They don't respond at the same to really anything. So they're all individuals, just like people. So you have to have a pattern for each individual dog and cat, obviously, when you're making decisions on kind of where you're going to go. So I think the key here is I would do a fructosamine. I don't, just to see where it's been laying, make sure that the overall picture has been good, and then probably another spot sugar and make sure we're on the right track here.
There you go.
All right.
Kids.
Speaking of cats,
That's a big kitty cat.
all right, let's see.
9 months old, and he's huge.
That's a big kitty. All right, let's see here. We got a couple other things here. Hi, Marianne Gambino's checking in. Hi, Marianne. Candace Cole. Look, who else is listening right now? Dr. Sminkey?
Who's that?
Gretchen Sminkey is listening from Portland, Oregon.
Gretchen. She said she's going to tune in. That's my girl.
I think one of the things, I had some more questions and here we go. Okay. So Stephanie asks, how do you know if your dog is overweight? So I'm going to add my 2 cents, but I'm going to add in at the end. Who wants to take it? Who wants to take this one first? I have my Earth Animal wine glass, by the way.
Don't go by the weight charts.
Maybe you guys, as a participation gift today.
What I always say to a client is you should be able to lightly feel the ribs and backbone without seeing them. And they should tuck up behind the rib cage, somewhat hourglass, depending on the, obviously the breed, sight hounds versus other. But that's pretty much spot on typically. So
Yeah, that's exactly where things are at.
And a waist.
And
They need to have a waist.
don't follow the numbers on the bags, dog food bags.
Not always, right? Not always. I think,
Your 30-pound dog, 12 cups a day, and I don't know why. Yeah.
Well, and the key is obviously you're looking at the waist, right? And, one of the best ways to visualize your dog is not necessarily from the side, but over the top of them, right? Because you're right. They should have a waist. If they go, and again, depends on individuals and breeds, and not all, a 100-pound lab is going to have a different build than a 60-pound lab, right? But they should all have some sort of waist. They should tuck in behind the ribs. And the best way to see that is above them, right? To look down on them and not necessarily from the side. Good answer, Scott. It was a good one. Here's another question from Susan, and this is a good one. So she's almost 9. And I get this question all the time, and I'm really interested in what you guys have to say about this. So she's an intact female. She's had litters. She's almost 9 years old. Should she just do the ear and not the spay? I know you guys get this question all the time, and this is a good question. And this is not all that easily answered. So anybody want to take this one first? I can weigh in first if you want.
I mean, I always recommend the spay. I've done way
Me
too
too.
many infected uteruses at 9+ years old for thousands of dollars.
Right.
For hundreds of dollars, you prophylactically remove the uterus and you're just done with the problem or the potential.
Right.
True. Very true.
So the reason for doing it changes a little bit, right? Because you certainly, when we talk about doing ovariohysterectomy, we talk about doing spays younger, you know, the purpose is twofold, right? One is to reduce the chance of mammary masses down the road, okay? Hormone driven, right? So when you're doing these spays, it does decrease their chance because, as we know, as they go through heat cycles, their chance of getting mammary cancer does go up exponentially, right? And obviously uterine infections, pregnancy, that sort of thing, right, in non-breeding animals. So, but when you get to that age, you do lose a lot of the benefits of the possibility of mammary masses, right? Because they can still then, so it does change. The reason why you're doing it at that stage is likely because we've all seen the 11-year-old dogs that are intact that get these big pyometras, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, it's just a large infection that can happen in the uterus. And it's life-threatening because it can make a dog septic very quickly, and it becomes an emergency surgery. And oftentimes, if it's my experience has been a lot of times it ends up happening on a Saturday night or something on a weekend, and they're at their emergency clinic, right? So that's the reason at that stage, because you have lost some of the benefits for the mammary masses at that stage, but again, like you said, we have all done those 12-year-old dogs better to do it when they're not under duress, when they're not, when you're looking at them and they have a 40,000 white count and they are super sick and now they have to go under anesthesia. So I think, are we all in agreement on that?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It's like people, with the dogs with horrible teeth and they're old, and well, we don't want to do the animal because they're old and the teeth are just horrendous. So it's just something you have to do. It's
in their best interest. So I think if the routine spay,
age is not a disease. That's what I talk about.
Age is not a
disease.
You're exactly right, Dr. Stephanie. You're exactly right. Part of, and also a routine spay doesn't add that much onto anesthesia time. The ear mass probably is relatively short, but a pyometra obviously is a little bit of a longer procedure. So I think, if we're going to go one anesthesia, if she's going to be under anesthesia, probably doing the ovariohysterectomy, the spay is, do we agree? Good idea. Good. All right, we're getting some more questions here. Let's start. Okay, so Nora has a question. Her 13-year-old cat Hubble lost his best buddy in September. He still goes through the house at various times, letting out mournful moans until I call his name. Is he mourning the loss of Taz, or is he getting dementia? And is there anything I can give him to calm him? Who wants to take anybody? I don't want to.
I know we're going to be speaking about something that is very effective, I would say.
So what, anybody have ideas?
CBDs.
CBD.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, I mean, so, the first part of this question, right? The first part is he still mourning, or is there a level of dementia? And so obviously tough to answer definitively, right? We do know that, there's been a lot of work done over the past several years. We didn't talk about cognitive dysfunction in animals when we got out of school. It was your animal's young or your animal's older, right? And now we know that the vast majority of our cats and dogs, when they get into their early and mid-teens, have some level of dementia. And we're all pet owners. We know, we've seen our animals, we just, unfortunately I lost my 13-year-old dog about a month ago, but you could see it in him. Just, the mental acuity in certain situations is not the same. They may, he started doing things like going to the wrong door to go outside. You can tell that cognition-wise, they're just not the same. So there can be a level of, of dementia, or what we call cognitive dysfunction there. And certainly if they were very close, this could also be him missing his buddy. When Stephanie mentioned CBD, one of the things that we are seeing the benefits of in CBD, and they're doing more and more studies on cannabidiols for use in veterinary, from anxieties to seizures to things like this, inappropriate urination in cats. So and they're with some positive results that they're getting. But what I find is I have found that some of my clients are using CBD in certain circumstances like this. They can just, it's natural way, calms them down a bit. Now there's a host of medications and things like that. And, if this continues and you are not, you're using things that aren't working, just give me a ring at the office and we'll talk about it. But it is something that there's several things we can try. There's some herbals we can talk about. But again, if it gets to the point where things aren't working, there are different medications. There's all sorts of things we can try.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else?
Hyperthyroidism, maybe the vocalizing, we could have an ear infection or something like that causing that as well. So. Yeah,
and physical, and I do know that otherwise I know I should have said, I know otherwise he's doing okay. So I think this is, but you're right. One of the keys to this that I always tell people is the first thing that you rule out in behavior change is any sort of physical issues, because in animals, they can't tell you what's going on. So they can manifest things that are going on internally in themselves behaviorally. So I think it's always important, if you see a behavior change, to make sure that your animal is otherwise healthy. And then you start addressing the behavior stuff. If Good? Think we answered it?
Good to me.
I don't want to talk for everybody.
Well.
I tend to anyway, so please shut me up if
Sounds good, Kris.
It's your show. We're just here.
Oh, I guess. Oh, yeah. All right, let's see. All right, Marianne has a question. Georgia does not eat dry food. Georgia is her dog, does not eat dry food. Does dry food make them gain more weight? The vet said she is in good shape, and my neighbor keeps saying she is skinny. So
that's classic. So a lot of times I think when I see pets and people say my cat's really thin, they're actually in perfect shape. And then my cat looks really healthy and they're obese. So,
Well, it's, again, I would tend to trust your veterinarian's assessment over maybe the neighbor most times. I know I'm a little biased, but most times I would tend to trust your veterinarian's assessment. There is this is a good question that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I did see and this is about weight in the animals. When back in March and April, when COVID first hit, and this was, everybody was, all of a sudden everyone's on lockdown. And when I first, a month or two down the road, when I was first seeing, people with their animals, I noticed that most of the animals had lost weight, right? Most of the dogs anyway, because, it's like that commercial where the dog gets walked like 5 times a day, right? I don't know if you guys have seen that commercial. And finally, The dog's like hiding under the table because it doesn't want to go for another walk, right? But I noticed that I have seen a bit of a reversal in that, however. Now, this 8-9 months later, where even some of the same dogs that have lost weight have gained a little back, because I think, have you been seeing the same type of stuff, or what? Have you seen consistency?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I call it COVID weight.
I've got it myself. I have it myself, so I know all
and then
about
I tell them this is COVID weight too.
Yeah. But it is a trend that I noticed. And I think, again, Marianne, I think that dry food does not necessarily make them gain more weight. It's all about what their caloric needs are and what they're getting. They're no different than people. So they have a daily, RER, they call it, resting energy requirement, and a certain amount of calories. And if they're exceeding those and they're not exercising, then they're going to gain weight, just like we are. So they really are no different. And, what people sometimes forget is when you feed your animal according to what your veterinarian says or what, what the food says, and, if they're eating their calories, if they get fed twice a day and they're getting their optimal calories, but then they're getting other things, chews and treats and everything. It's no different than us snacking between meals. So you have to always adjust what they're doing based on their daily requirement. And, sporting dogs are going to be out there burning more calories. Obviously your bulldog that's laying on the couch is not necessarily going to be, burning a lot of calories. So you have to always adjust. And again, it is individual. They're not all the same. I've owned a few bulldogs in my life, and, some were much more active than others. Some had, much different energy, requirements than others. So everybody's different, but you have to go by those principles of what Dr. Leffler, Dr. Scott was talking about before, where you want them to have a waist, you have to look at them. And I would listen to your veterinarian on what they, what they think, what he or she thinks they look like optimally. Susan says, thank you, everybody, for the input.
Why do you keep bumping into the giraffe?
Well, it's too close to my shoulder. I'm trying to keep it in the frame, Steph. You want me? Well, I mean, it's part of my set. I don't know what to tell you. Hold on.
He's trying to get in the picture.
Yeah, trying to hog the screen. See the mask? All right, here we go. Tasha has a question. Oh, just went away. Hold on one second. Oh, we'll go to another question because I just lost that one somehow. All right. All right, Mayor has a question. Hi, Mayor. Thanks for watching. The older Jessie gets, the less she likes to take that second or third, in parentheses, like we were talking about, walk per day. And so when I talk to people about, my clients ask me all the time, how much is, how much is too much? How much is enough? Going back to individuality, right? The key as animals get older, and again, I want you guys to weigh in on this, is daily movement is key. When your animals start to get older, and maybe, at 2 years old, you're out there in the yard using a chuck it and throwing a ball and doing this vigorous movement. As they get older, that's not ideal because it puts a lot of stress on their joints and their ligaments and things like that. But that daily kind of moderate movement is key because that keeps their muscles, that keeps their joints, nice and lubricated. So if they're pushing back a little bit on a third walk or a second walk, it may be them telling you that, okay, well, we're just, maybe right now this is a little too much for me. But you do want to make sure that they're moving every day. I think that keeps them young. I think it keeps them in better shape. And again, they're burning calories just like us. And the benefit is then we're walking too, which is something that I need to get back to doing myself for sure.
Good point.
Do you guys have when you talk to people, and they ask you optimal exercise, do you take it on an individual basis? Do you have something that you think about that you kind of use as a platform, or do you basically take it as individuals?
That's a good
I would
point.
say individuals for sure.
Yeah, there's no.
You're gonna have an old lab that can barely even move, and go a half a mile, but you can have a 12-year-old, small breed dog that can do like 3 miles still. But when they start slowing down, that's when I start recommending the joint supplements, because it may be from pain. It could be from arthritis pain, not just because they're older.
Well, and you guys know too, the arthritis, hallmarks of arthritis are worse after two things, right? Vigorous exercise and prolonged rest. So you want them somewhere in that middle. You want them moving every day, not just sitting and crouched up on a bed because then they get up and they walk like me every morning, and that's just not ideal, right? So you want to keep them moving. You want to keep them moving every day. And
then the atrophy and the muscles, the whole thing.
Right. And, I think the other thing too is, I probably have started joint supplements earlier and earlier in these dogs' lives, than I used to, because I think, doing this even, kind of when they get into that middle age, just starting some of these things just to slow progression of things, I think is never a bad idea either.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, let me get this question before it goes away again.
Medicines.
Okay, and this is from Angel. Angel's dog is Hendrix. Hendrix is awesome. Hi, Kris. I'm curious if everyone else saw the same crazy extended allergies. We're actually talking about this before the show, right? So this segues into a topic that I wanted to talk about. That's great. Same crazy extended allergies this year. We are only just coming out of regular sneezing and allergies. So Hendrix, just to give you guys a little history, Hendrix has the whole kind of gambit. Hendrix has inhalant allergies, food sensitivities, the whole deal. And he's usually a pretty good gauge for me to know when the season is kind of starting and when it ends, because he's one of the first ones when Angel calls me and says, yeah, we're coughing and sneezing. It's begun, and I was just curious. This was probably the longest that I can remember, the longest allergy season that I've had, maybe ever. I still have, up until this snow, and really, I think continuing a little bit, is I have animals coming in, and as we know, we talk about atopic dermatitis in dogs, right? Inhalant allergies. Some of it becomes contact. These dogs walk around, pollen gets on their paws, they chew their feet, all the hallmarks. You see the red saliva staining on these dogs' paws, that they're chewing their feet. So I was seeing that right up to the snowfall. And I think part of it is that we are, and I want to know regionally what you guys also were seeing, but I think part of it is our seasons just, certainly here in Connecticut, and Steph, you're not obviously, Dr. Ulrich, you're not far from me geographically, but they're just not that crisp like they used to. You live in New England, you expect the 4 seasons. We're kind of getting like 2.5, right? We're not, we've got 70-degree days in December, and so a lot of these pollens don't. I remember last year our flowers started coming up the day after Christmas because it was so warm. And then it got cold and they died off and they didn't know what to do. But so we're seeing these things go later and later. And, we have much better tools now to deal with these allergies, both holistic and natural and traditional. And so, I always do an integrative approach, but I was wondering what you guys saw regionally as far as allergies go. I
just saw yesterday, I must have seen 5 or 6 itchy dogs. I think we went through Caddy Cytopoint, which is an allergy injection. And we went through our whole thing of it. And it was amazing. I've never seen, but we have so much snow on the ground. It's cold here. I don't know what or why these animals at this time of the year, we really shouldn't be seeing that, but it's 2020, so who knows?
I know, yeah. I guess all bets are off this year, right? Dr. Scott, how about you out in Ohio?
So, I have 4 appointments tomorrow for allergies. Tomorrow.
Same.
We had nearly a foot of snow a couple weeks ago, beginning of December, and just never stopped. So when I look at the pollen reads, it's mostly dust and dander, but it's still feet. It's a lot of ears. I don't know. Now, the last couple of years, when it's been mild throughout most of the winter, I've seen allergies in January and February, I had never seen before. So right. I really don't know what's going on. It's got to be a weather shift and the global warming thing.
Whatever it is, it's changing, and it's definitely changing. We're seeing more parasites. We're seeing Dr. Sminkey, how about you? You're cold right now, right? It's cold up in the White Mountains. It's cold of
allergies. I think this year we have to look a little bit at the precipitation, the lack of it.
Sure.
That may have contributed quite a bit to things. And now this time of year, everybody's locked up. Everybody's in their house. So we're getting maybe some more dust allergies, some dust mite allergies, things like that. But yeah, it's
Good
it's
point.
still it's still it's an ongoing thing, and we can talk about foods and all that kind of stuff, and quite often that does help. But luckily we have
But
some
this
good.
does go to, so a couple points that I want to make. One is, and I don't think I've even talked to you guys about it. One of the things that I'm seeing, veterinary medicine is also regional, right? There are certain diseases that have pockets. Again, we get to tick-borne disease when we talk about it. We were talking before the show about how, I can diagnose multiples a day of Lyme, Ehrlichia, Anaplasma. And certainly we all see it in our regions, but Scott, you see it much more infrequently. Even Dr. Stephanie, even out in the island, you see it, but probably not to the frequency that I do.
Not like, yeah.
And up in New Hampshire, you have it, but not to, so,
Right.
and I'll
Right
give you
where
one,
you
I'll
are.
give you one other interesting thing. And I don't think I've told you guys this, but it's something that we're making our clients aware of. We have all of a sudden had an outbreak in our area, in my practice area, of Sarcoptes. And I think it's definitely driven by the increase in the foxes and the coyotes around here. We've had a ton, okay? So it must be we're getting fomite transmission in the backyards of this. But whereas I would maybe see a case or two a year of Sarcoptes, I've been having maybe 2 or 3 a week in my area, believe it or not. And and we're lucky now we have a blood test for it, right? So we have, we used to have to diagnose it based on really deep skin scrapes and you would miss it. It's really hard to find. I Dec Laboratories has a blood test for it that's 95% specific, but so we're better at diagnosing it, but that's not it. It's the increase in, we have a lot of wild fox and coyotes running all over here, even in Black Rock in the cities and my yard in Stratford, there's a lot of them. And so what we've had to do is, even seeing all these itchy animals, and even the animals that we know have atopic dermatitis and they come in and they're itchy, we're testing all of them. It's good. It's it's a $50 blood test, so it's a cheap enough blood test. But we're testing them because, again, you're kind of swimming upstream if they do have Sarcoptes and you're treating for atopic dermatitis.
Kidding.
Kris, what about lepto?
We don't. So again, a bit regional. We don't have as much lepto in our immediate area. All right. It is of some concern, but it is not nearly as high, I believe, as on the island. Right. I think we lost Stephanie's video.
Yeah.
Oh, she's back. She hit something. Are you touching? Is it the whispering angel? Are you starting to touch?
My phone is dying.
Oh, perfect.
I have to go get a plug.
Yeah, you want to go get a plug? All right, go ahead. Anyway, so yeah, not as much in this area, Dr. Sminkey, as in certain other areas. New York has a lot of certain areas are hotbeds for lepto.
I think where you have a lot of suburban wildlife, you
Sure.
have a lot of sarcoptic mange and issues like that, and you have a lot of lepto and things like that, all related to the increasing suburban wildlife population that we have.
Right. Let's take a few more questions. Believe it or not, we're almost at an hour here, which is flying by. It's really
What's Steph doing?
She's not interested anymore.
I gotta find a plug. I'm sorry.
All right. That's fine. Let's go on to another question while Stephanie just gets her act together on her end. All right.
What?
Here we go. So Maureen said her dog Maggie only has one eye that she rubs. Do you use the medicated eye drops or just regular eye drops from the store? Could it be dry eye? So Maureen, that's a tough question to answer without looking, right? So it could be any of the above. I typically, and I think you guys will agree, Dr. Scott and Dr. Sminkey, I do not recommend people use any of the over-the-counter medications in the dog's eye, because oftentimes, when they're rubbing their eye, they can scratch their eye, right? So we don't want to put anything that's going to jeopardize making that worse. I think if they're rubbing at it, you should always just have them checked. And then whether it's, when we check the eyes, we look at the eyes, we stain the eyes for scratches, we look for tear production. And so you know, it's important to check. And yes, it could be dry eye, and dry eye you would treat a little differently. Sometimes dry eye has secondary bacterial infections, so you would treat that first, but you never really recommend going and using any of the over-the-counters initially, correct?
Okay, Steph, we're all done. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
Back now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I see a lot of people with house calls that reach into their little plastic container and pull out maybe 8 or 12 different eye and ear medications, some of them from the 90s. Should I be using this? It's like, no, you should be throwing that out, is what you should be doing.
Yeah, it's what I think a general rule is when you can't read the writing on the bottle anymore, it's probably, we have it all the time where people come in and now I've had my own practice now, like Scott, for 20 years. And I'll have people come in and be like, I started this. And it's just a plain old like white bottle because it's good. I don't even know what it is. They're like, well, I found it in the drawer. It seems to be working still. I'm like, well, I can freshen that med up for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. All right, let's take a couple more here, and then I appreciate you guys' time so much. This has been really fun for me, and so I don't want to hold you any longer than I have to. But let's see, we might have a couple more here. So Marianne, again, talking about her dog, Georgia. Georgia's 11 years old, and we walk approximately 2 to 2.5 hours a day. Would that be too much for her? You know, again, Marianne, I welcome your opinion, guys, but when we go back to the individual thing, Marianne, it's all individual. If she walks with you and she does well and she likes to do it, I see no reason to not continue doing that.
I would
How about
agree.
you guys?
Same.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, let's see. Okay, Nicole, I think what we'll do? We'll end with Nicole's question here. Nicole says, hi, doctors. My 11-year-old dog developed a bald spot in the middle of his tail earlier this year, and it still hasn't grown in. I've never seen him lick or chew the spot. Any ideas what could have caused it? Who wants to take that one? I've been hogging all the questions.
The old tailhead alopecia.
Right. And so workup wise, what would you guys recommend on that?
Scrape.
Yep, just to
And
make
scrape.
sure, right?
What kind of dog was it?
She didn't say, I'm not sure.
Interesting. Female, whatever. Yeah.
However, yes, can be glandular, right? Certainly, there is a gland in that area where you can get that kind of hair loss there. The other thing too is I always think it's good whenever you have this kind of some occasional patchy loss, besides what we already talked about, is doing blood profiles, health profiles, and checking their overall health as well as a thyroid. I think is always a good plan in that.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
In that regard, yeah.
And check that
Oh,
spot.
so
underneath.
wait,
Check that
I know
spot
I did
underneath
say
there.
that. I know I did say that was the last question. I think something's going on with my screen where the questions are going out of my screen. So I know I'm missing some and I really apologize. But I do. My wife just came on, Donna, and said that I think Samantha Bassett had a question about how to wean their new puppy from the crate. And Samantha's my sister, so I think I better answer that question. So I don't get yelled at by both my wife and my sister. So I guess, look, I think, again, crate training, I always highly recommend crate training for puppies. I think it is the best way to, one, train them to go outside, obviously, and two, to keep them safe when you're not with them. That is a big one, right? The one thing that we always know about animals and our dogs is that they are predictably unpredictable. So even if you think you're cornering them and you might have them back hall with a little puppy gate, it's not that long before they realize either they can chew it or they could climb it or they could get themselves stuck in it. So I am a big proponent of crate training. And so I think so I take them through being, in our house, right? So we crate train our dogs and we generally then leave their crates with the doors open. That's exactly what we have going on in our house right now, where our dogs at night, our two rescue dogs put themselves to bed in their crates at night. They go in there. That's their place. That's their, that's their, dogs by nature are den animals. They like that enclosure. They like that. So, so I don't necessarily know about weaning from the crate. I do know that there's at some point you want to be able to give them the freedom and have that door open where they can walk in a certain area, but they can go back there to lay down if they're tired. So that's kind of how I handle it. What do you, what about that, Dr. Scott? Anything else?
Yeah, same. It's like a safe zone. So like keep it in your family room or and have their favorite blanket or toys in there, and they can just go in there, whenever they want, they could just go in there.
Yeah.
Right. And what's funny? They go from this, obviously when you first are crate training them, they make a stink in there, right? Because they don't want to be in there, and some more than others. And, of all the dogs that I've ever had in my life, I've only ever not been able to crate train one of them. And it was my first bulldog. And she would literally flip the crate. Like I could not crate. She just, but most of them, you go through that first 48, 72 hour where they're making a bit of a stink at night. And then all of a sudden they get used to it, and then they like it, and then they actually like it because it's their zone. They have their area, and so I think that my kind of weaning on the crate is really just weaning the door being closed, I guess is the way I would say it.
So make it like a happy place.
Yeah.
Make it a place where they don't go there to get punished. Put something over the top of it. They love to have like an old blanket or something. They like to have something over the top of them. It makes them feel more secure, I think. And leave the door open.
I think you're right. I think one of the things you got to be careful of when you do that is to have it out of the zone where the puppy can pull it in and chew it, right? You got to be careful about that with the little ones.
There's a point.
All right, one more. So Nicole, by the way, Nicole's dog we talked about with the bald spotted tail is a beagle. And I think, so everything we talked about applies. So I think checking that thyroid, checking some blood, just doing skin scrape to make sure, but sometimes that can be glandular. And oftentimes, it's tough to resolve, but all right. One more, sorry guys. Here we go. Bonnie. Oh, it's just a comment. Sorry. So Bonnie said that her trainer set up to 2 years for crate training. I generally last about a year, then off and on, maybe another year. It depends on what you want to do, but I think that, having that available for them with the door open is great. Just a safe zone for them. Okay, everybody. I think it's time for thank yous. First and foremost, thank you guys for doing this. I know you're all really busy. I know that took a little time to get this coordinated when you guys can all do it. Stephanie, thank you for coming from work and staying at work now to do this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys know, I think the world of you. I think you're all amazing people and amazing veterinarians. And I miss you guys.
Right back at you, Kris. Right back at you, buddy.
Right back at you.
Same, Chris.
All right, this is when I'm getting sappy now. You see, so I get sappy now for everybody. But I think last show, just quickly, just a few thank yous. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all the people that have helped me with the show through the year, from Earth Animal, Kitty, Michael, Nicole, and the entire Earth Animal family from the top down. And thank you, Dr. Bob and Susan, for trusting me to do this every week and allowing me to talk. I do appreciate it. And I can't begin to tell you guys, how much, and this, Scott, as well, because you spent time with Dr. Bob, how much knowledge he has to impart. And I try to be like a sponge around him, and he and his wife, Susan, are just amazing people, and they run an amazing company. And I'm really, really happy to be a part of it. And most importantly, I think I want to thank my staff as well for this year. This has been a rough year on all. I know, our staffs at our hospitals are our backbones, right? And the fact that everyone's hung in there and worked together in this trying time, I could not do it without my amazing staff. So I want to thank them. I want to thank my family for dealing with me when I'm tired and crabby. So I want to thank them as well. My wife, Donna, and my kids, Morgan and Will. So thank you. And again, everybody who watched for these 33 weeks, I can't wait to see what we're going to do with the show throughout, 2021. We'll be back again beginning of January with new shows. Again, we've got this platform format. We're going to be having more guests. I'm going to make sure and get you guys on again. You're going to have to do this again. Maybe we'll schedule it, Stephanie, where we don't have to run around and sit in your office to do this. We'll do it at a better time for you. Thank you guys so much again for being here and talking. I think this was a great show, and it was just great to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Blessings to all.
I miss you guys.
Yeah,
Hi, everybody. All right, we're going to go out with a little Stevie.
there you go. Cheers, good friends. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers, everybody at home. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Guys, I'll try to get you one of the Earth Animal glasses
Nice.
for being a part of the show today, huh? All right. I miss you guys. Bye.
Yep.
Miss you. Bye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy New Year.